Hey, folks. Welcome to another episode of Connecting with the Creator. I'm Jad, and that's Jake.
Mm-hmm. I'm Jake.
And we are taking it back, way back to Matthew chapter 28. We'll be finishing off the book of Matthew this evening, discussing, and then starting off a new chapter, a new book. So we'll get right into it.
Alrighty. Matthew 28. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the woman, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, he has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the woman hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers and go to Galilee. There they will see me." While the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests everything that had happened. When the chief priests had met with the elders and devised a plan, they gave the soldiers a large sum of money, telling them, "You are to say, his disciples came during the night and stole him away while we were asleep. If this report gets to the governor, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So the soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed, and this story has been widely circulated among the Jews to this very day. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age."
So really the only thing I have to say about this specific chapter is when it talks about after Sabbath or after Shabbat. So Shabbat is known as Saturday, and in the Hebrew calendar, the days start the night before. So that's why the Jewish people, Friday night, that's when they start their essentially church service for Saturday or Shabbat. And then at the end of the day, sundown, that day ends and Sunday essentially starts. And so when it comes to the feast, it talked about Jesus eating the Passover meal with his disciples. And so during the feast of Passover, you don't eat leaven for 7 days, and so that very first day is actually considered a high holy Sabbath. So there's Sabbaths that aren't on Saturday inside of the feast days, and so there's one at the very beginning, and then there's another at the end. So there's an idea that this Sabbath here that they're talking about isn't a weekly Saturday Sabbath. So it may not be a Sunday where he's rising, but it may have been a high Sabbath that was starting off the Feast of Passover. And so that would have also fulfilled kind of like the idea that Jesus was the Passover lamb in terms of that night they were spreading the blood on the doorpost, his blood, and then that next day it kind of went over all the Israelites' houses to where the plague and the killing of the firstborn didn't affect them. And so also kind of giving us that vision of what that looks like in terms of what he did for the people, forgiveness of sins, and being that sacrifice, that ultimate sacrifice to be able to take that away. So it's interesting. I don't know if there's much clarity or factual evidence to support either statement, but it's just something to throw out there, I guess.
Yeah, that is interesting. I guess I didn't know the Sabbath could be on days other than Saturday.
Well, it's always Saturday, but in the feast, like Yom Kippur, the day where people will fast, that is that's considered Sabbath. So these days throughout the Jewish calendar, some of these holidays, there's one day where they don't work, so they make it like a weekly Saturday Sabbath where people don't work, they don't drive their cars. Yom Kippur is obviously a much heightened one because they don't do any eating, and sometimes they don't even do any drinking, no brushing your teeth or anything like that. So let's see what else. So Sukkot, which is the Feast of Booths. I know that there's at least one High Holy Sabbath there. I think there's also two there, the beginning and at the end. What other? So Passover, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. I think I'm missing a couple, but yeah. So those high days in there are considered non-work days where it's a Sabbath.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Did you have anything with that chapter?
I did not.
All right. So as we finish off Matthew and going through all of the things that Jesus did, and if we look at Matthew as a factual book, there were some pretty amazing things that just happened in these 28 chapters in terms of miracles, in terms of wisdom and teachings. And something that I was thinking about, and that is in today's day and age technology, and I was thinking that statement of WWJD. I don't know if you ever really heard that statement or not, or it was very popular more so in the 90s. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what would Jesus do? And the approach has essentially been, throughout your life, like when you're faced with a decision, that you always put yourself in Jesus' shoes and think like, what would Jesus do? And I was just thinking about that. And with today's technology and social media, I think the more that I've removed myself from social media, the more freedom I've had of not trying to be a people pleaser or be what I think other people want me to be by how I show myself. It's like when you think of a social media post, right? Like an Instagram post, it's like, what is the purpose? What's the purpose of it? Like, it seems like the only logical explanation and the true purpose is to impress someone. It can be to connect with people, but then when we go down to connecting with people on a much deeper level, like how many people can you truly connect to and actually have intimate relationships with throughout your life? And if someone is 2,000 miles away, them commenting and you guys commenting back and forth, it's like, okay, it's good to comment, but like, what type of a relationship is that actually? For me, I've always enjoyed face-to-face conversation. Anyways, I'm getting way off track with that. And thinking about what would Jesus do, like if Jesus was here today, like what would he do? Would he have a social media? Like would he be on Instagram? What would he be posting? Would he be posting his miracles? Like, would he follow anybody? Would he be a David Goggins where he just has his own and he doesn't follow anybody? And like he's posting, but I was just like really thinking about that. Obviously there has to be a specific reason that he was there during that specific time, and he's not here during this time, and it's which really like try to think about that. It's like, man, that's super strange. Like, what if Jesus actually was here right now? Like, how would he live his life? Because for me, that's what this part of the podcast is all about, is trying to connect with the creator on a deeper level. So I'm trying to grasp, like, if Jesus was here, how would he connect with God more? And like, why are we still having these stories from the Bible relevant today? Like, where are these people that are today? I think we asked Asher this question. He said it did, but it's like, well, why isn't this being documented? And, where's it happening? How is it? Like, how do we try to have this relationship with those types of people who are close to the creator? Maybe he is speaking to them. I don't know if it's audibly or whatnot. But, I think we've discussed a lot, like, what is your life purpose? What is the purpose of life? And then I think once you kind of break it down and go back to that, what would Jesus do? And you start realizing, like, just how many things in today's day and age are almost just hindrances. Like, they're just things to keep us busy and to do things and maybe to go have fun versus like actually filling our ultimate life purpose, which is like to be able to provide and to be able to have relationships and friendships and deep connection. And that's really it. And do it day in and day out.
Yeah, I feel like almost everything that takes up our time day to day, a lot of it is just distractions. I mean, just how can we distract ourselves? How can we entertain ourselves and not just be alone with our thoughts and just think and write stuff down and read? And even reading is a distraction to a sense, unless you're using it to fulfill a purpose in learning about a certain subject. But I don't know. A lot of it is distraction. And then
And when you think about distractions, not saying that I don't agree with you, distractions from what?
I don't know, just distractions from just having downtime. There was a saying that I heard this weekend, and it was like, I miss the feeling of being bored, because you're never bored. Like, and if you're ever bored, you just pick up your phone and do whatever on your phone, and you might still be bored, but at least you're doing something. Like, I mean, I remember when we were kids, or when we were kids, when I was a kid and you were a fully grown adult, we would sit in the living room and we would be like, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And it wasn't we were on our phone. We were sitting there pretty much staring at each other, throwing a football in the sky or something back and forth. And we were just sitting there bored because we didn't have anything to do. Whereas now if I'm bored, I can just, I don't know, do anything.
But on a deeper level, even if we go back and look at that, like throwing a football back around, yeah, okay, we were having a connection. But if we're thinking about like fulfilling our true potential, right? So what still, even with that, are we missing out on? What are we missing out of? Separating ourselves from this world and going out and just being present in society and working on maybe our insecurities that we use because we're bored. Like, we're bored of not wanting to feel alone. We're bored of not being entertained by someone else. We're bored because we don't have a job, or we're not living a life that's purposeful. What?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's just interesting, like how deep you can actually go into your life, and when you start thinking about a connection with the creator, that there's a higher God, and that there is death, and that we're just here for a very short amount of time. And so it's like, what's the impact that we want to have while we're here on this earth? Is it important to have an impact? Is it important just to be true and enjoy life? Enjoy food with people, sleep, have fun. But it's like, well, like, how much fun do you want to have? Like, how much fun is having too much fun or being too materialistic? Or like, it's just like, really, like, what is it that's the true representation of just bringing yourself the best possible life that there is? Because you can look at it from a enjoyment standpoint where you just live a life full of trying to enjoy temporary pleasures and enjoy that, but you can also look at it from maybe a burdensome life to where you're trying to please God in every way possible, and you get anxious about not making any mistakes and trying to be perfect, and there's a salvation aspect of it from Jesus. And so it's like, well, like where's the middle grounds between those things, and not judging others and trying to put your head, nose up in the air to where you're better than others, which I think is something we should all strive for, not so much to be better than others, but to be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. And I think that's something that's, really important. But it's like, well, how do we do that?
Right.
Because when I hear you talking about your distractions, right, it's like most of our distractions are for us to be entertained. And so it's like, well, what's the opposite of trying to be entertained? Like
Mm-hmm.
what would not be a distraction?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. Huh. I mean, even if you're going to work, like, is that a distraction from your true purpose? Or what is your true purpose? Yeah. Huh.
Right. And who is it to decide that? Because, I've brought up previously that we've lost this connection with the creator and how we can talk back and forth. And
Mm-hmm.
so how do we try to figure out what that is? I think some of it has to do with trying to, continue to read the Bible and understand, how to be a good person, how to live a good life. But connecting with the creator is really, really difficult. It seems in today's day and age, I just struggle with it. Something I struggle with. Try to do the best that I possibly can. And I'm very thankful for having the books that are out there now more on personal improvement and self-development, because I feel like sometimes the Bible just isn't super applicable to today.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other books that have helped me to be able to overcome my thoughts and my mind and to be more confident in myself and less worried about other people. When the Bible's talking about don't be worried, don't be fearful, it's like, okay, I hear you say that, but how does this apply? It's like, oh, well, this book goes into detail about sharing how it does apply and how these things, as I grew up, and how I acted or the things I worried about, how those it came in my mind, and how to be more in the present and just be more confident in who I am. And some of that just comes from learning and living a life and growing up, right?
Yeah. I guess that's a very new perspective and something I never looked at in that way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So as we finish up Matthew, the next book, one of my favorite books in the Bible, is James. And so that's what we're going to start off next. I don't know. Last time we didn't really read this introduction, which isn't part of the Bible, but I'm going to read this, and just so we have a better understanding of what it is we're about to read moving forward here.
Okay.
So, Yaakov, James, served as the chief rabbi of this early Messianic Jewish community centered in Jerusalem. He was a Torah teacher per excellence, spokesman for the entire community, and chief halachic judge in authority. Halakhic refers to Jewish religious law, which means that Yaakov interpreted and applied community practices based on his understanding of the Torah. He was respected in the non-Messianic Jewish world, where he was referred to as a Tzaddik, a wise man. Understanding Yaakov in these contexts can help us better understand the purpose of his book. Behind the Koine Greek are thoroughly Torah-based concepts, and the textual sources for the subjects he addresses are all from the 5 books of Moshe. He does not present new teachings, but a uniquely Messianic Jewish view of Torah-based, as seen in his encouraging Asiyit HaTorah, the practical application of the Torah teachings. It is crucial to see the continuity between the teachings of Yaakov and Shaul Paul. Too often, incorrect understanding of Yaakov's writings on faith and actions leads the reader to view them as holding diametrically opposed views about the role of faith and the function of actions. Here we should think of actions as mitzvot, the faith performance of the biblical commandments. This is how the first century Jewish world defined this concept of actions. All first century Jews, including Messianic Jews, saw the performance of the biblical commandments as stemming from one's faith in God, never in opposition to it. Keeping the mitzvot was a result of their relationship with God, not to earn a relationship. In Jewish thought, the purpose of fulfilling the biblical commandments was never to earn entrance into the world to come. If we understand Yaakov's belief that faith in God and his Messiah is the basis for correctly fulfilling the biblical commandments, then this book makes more sense. The letter was likely among the first books written in the Brit Hadashah New Testament between 46 and 60 CE, according to Jewish historian Josephus. Yaakov was martyred in 62 CE. So I'll start off with chapter 1.
Okay.
From Yaakov, a slave of God and of the Lord Yeshua the Messiah, to the 12 tribes in the diaspora, Shalom. Regard it all as joy, my brothers, when you face various kinds of temptations, for you know that the testing of your trust produces perseverance. But let perseverance do its complete work, so that you may be complete and whole, lacking in nothing. Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in trust, doubting nothing, for the doubter is like a wave in the sea being tossed and driven by the wind. Indeed, that person should not think that he will receive anything from the Lord, because he is double-minded, unstable in all his ways. Let the brother in humble circumstances boast about his high position, but let the rich brother boast about his being humble, since like a wildflower, he will pass away. For just as the sun rises with the cherub and dries up the plant, so that its flower falls off and its beauty is destroyed, so too the rich person going about his business will wither away. How blessed is the man who perseveres through temptation, for after he has passed the test, he will receive as his crown the life which God has promised to those who love him. No one being tempted should say, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, and God himself tempts no one. Rather, each person is being tempted whenever he is being dragged off and enticed by the bait of his own desire. Then, having conceived, the desire gives birth to sin. And when sin is fully grown, it gives birth to death. Don't delude yourselves, my dear brothers. Every good act of giving and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father who made the heavenly lights. With him there is neither variation nor darkness caused by turning. Having made his decision, he gave birth to us through a word that can be relied upon, in order that we should be a kind of first fruits of all that he created. Therefore, my dear brothers, let every person be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. For a person's anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. So rid yourselves of all vulgarity and obvious evil, and receive meekly the word implanted in you, that you can that can save your lives. Don't deceive yourselves by only hearing what the world says, but do it. Whoever hears the world but doesn't do what it says, is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, who looks at himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what he looks like. But if a person looks closely into the perfect Torah, which gives freedom, and continues, becoming not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the word, it requires then he will be blessed in what he does. Anyone who thinks he is religiously observant but does not control his tongue is deceiving himself, and his observant counts for nothing. The religious observance that God the Father considers pure and faultless is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being contaminated by the world.
Hmm.
So, one of the things where it talks about God Himself tempts no one. So, they're talking about it being enticed by the Yetzer Hara, which is the evil inclination, which is essentially like our own flesh. So there's not really a belief in like a Satan. It has to do with our own impure desires from our own minds and desires. And so there's not really something that tricks us, that causes us to sin, that's over there in the corner, like just trying to get us to do stuff, and that we can go and then kind of put the blame on. So that's something I guess I've always appreciated about that.
Hmm. One of my big takeaways from this from this chapter was that saying of everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And it's just, I don't know. You you learn a lot more when you're just, I don't know, just listening more than you speak. And the people who are usually quickest to speak have the littlest amount to say, but they're, I don't know.
That's interesting because I would say, as I was younger, I took this a little bit out of context, and I just always assumed that it meant that I shouldn't be speaking,
Mm.
and so that I should just always be the one listening as I was young and listening. And I missed a lot of opportunities, and I think being able to learn, because one of the way that you learn about other people and that you build strong relationships is be able by talking, whether it be asking questions or sharing a little bit of yourself. Where sometimes I think it's assumed that you just shouldn't talk. And sometimes when you don't talk, sometimes you can be looked as prideful or arrogant, or like, how do you ever grow any type of friendships if you're not talking, if you're
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there and always trying to listen?
Right.
It doesn't give you an opportunity to really be known at all. And
That's true.
so I mean, I think for us, like through the podcast, right? Like if we just both decided that, oh, well, I shouldn't really be talking, it's like there's just going to be dead silence in this podcast.
Right.
So we have to, and that's why I enjoy when other people are on, being able to ask them questions and kind of, getting to know them. So,
Right. Yeah.
but I think the uh, be slow to anger, I think that one's really important in how we try to handle our emotions. And I've kind of came to the conclusion that the one time to where I really don't hold back on my emotions when it comes to anger is whenever there's a situation where someone is about to get physically hurt right now, like in the time being, um, like 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 somebody's running across, or you see like a car going really fast, be like, watch out, go get, or yelling, slow down, or like get out of
Mm-hmm.
the way, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone's like coming presenting danger on you and stuff like that, like but when it comes to all the other forms of anger, we can get very, very angry about things that don't really matter, and they're not a matter of life and death in the current moment. And so that's where I think it's really important to do this, because I think if it was in regards to a war, like they're going out and they're trying to fight for their village or anything, I think that form of anger like
Mm-hmm.
would be justified.
Right. Yeah, it's very situational, but I think for
Mm-hmm.
the vast majority of the time, being slow to anger is very beneficial. Because then when you're angry,
Yeah,
that dictates your sense of judgment, and that becomes poor, and then you make bad decisions, and then it leads to even more anger, and it's just a vicious cycle.
exactly. And it has to do with the application of who it's being said to, when it's being said, what's the context, right?
Yep.
And that's what's important with being able to understand these things.
Mm-hmm. Did you have anything else
All
from this
right,
chapter?
you can read too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers and sisters, believer in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ must not show favoritism. Suppose a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes also comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, "Here's a good seat for you," but say to the poor man, "You stand there," or "Sit on the floor by my feet," have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my dear brothers and sisters, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor. It is not the rich who are Is it not the rich who are exploiting you? Are they not the ones who are dragging you into court? Are they not the ones who are blaspheming the noble name of him to whom you belong? If you really if you really keep the royal law found in scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. But if you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers. For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of it. For he who said, "You shall not commit adultery," also said, "You shall not murder." If you do not commit adultery, but do commit murder, you have become a lawbreaker. Speak and act as those who are going to be judged by the law that gives freedom, because judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. Oh, because judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. Mercy triumphs over judgment. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, "You have faith, I have deeds." Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, "Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend." You see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. In the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead.
One of the things I've always enjoyed about James is the fact that it's very clear and concise about what it is he's speaking about. He'll he doesn't really speak in parables to where it's like, oh, we have to try to like figure it out or anything like that. It's like pretty clear when he's talking about, like, don't just have faith, let your actions show your faith by how you handle your business and what you do. And, what good is it, my brothers, if someone claims to have faith but has no actions, and then talks about someone who's poor and needy, and then just say, hey, keep warm and enjoy food? Like, that's just like, we're not giving them anything. And that's where we've came so far removed where we're competing with each other for this higher position of entertainment, of having things, accomplishing tasks, winning at life. And when you win, you're essentially leaving everybody else in the dust. And so, like, how do you try to work together so that everybody can just be fed and enjoy life, and so that we're not putting ourselves on a pedestal to try to be so competitive and better than others? And so, I don't know. That's something that speaks to me, because coming from an athlete and a perfectionist mindset, is that I always want to be better. Like, I always want to reach my ultimate purpose, and I want to be the best that I can possibly be. I just hope I need to have better. I need to make sure that it's not me just trying to be better than other people and to compete with people and win. But it's about just trying to be the best that I can possibly be, and also hoping others great success in what they do, because I like seeing other people win too. It's really encouraging to see, someone at the gym like getting stronger, or like being able to overcome their maybe dietary lusts and sugar and giving up pop, and then being able to see the results and seeing how they're feeling and stuff like that. That's awesome, man. It's awesome to see people like accomplish big things in their job and to win and stuff. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, definitely. I like how it talks about the rich man and the poor man coming into a service, and it's just like, I don't know. It makes you think about it. It's not necessarily saying that you should think poorly of the rich person, because they're both coming to service. They're showing they're just being present. It's just not favoring anybody, and it's not favoring the poor over the rich, but it's maybe the poor is in need of something where the rich has all of their needs filled, and it's just showing support to those. And I don't know, just realizing that everybody's doing what they can, and a lot of the time people are succumbed to temptation, and whether whether or not that person's doing well or not, at least they're trying in that moment. So I don't know, you have to respect them and show love and mercy, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's tough because I think it's even possible to go to church for your own benefits, and so you assume some people are going there with good intentions in their hearts and stuff, and it just seems like, man, this is a struggle. Like, I'm here to try to connect with God, and the
Mm-hmm.
church service. We're on our last song, and everybody's walking out to be the first one to the restaurant out there. It's just like,
Yeah.
man, I just want to like connect with people. I want to be able
Yeah.
to share life. I want to like hear other people's struggles and be able to like help and talk
Mm-hmm.
to each other about all of our struggles and be able to build on those things and work through things.
Right.
That's where there's power. And it's just like when I see that, I just get very deterred and I guess frustrated and lose hope. But I guess I need to really always just focus on myself and say, hey, well, where are you? Like, how are you doing? Like, stop
Mm-hmm.
worrying about the people going to get food.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing? Where have you made? Where have you applied this same strategy in your own mind that you were doing similar things? Because oftentimes when we see those things and we're aware of those things, it's something in our own life that we're not aware of
Right. Right.
that we could really be working on. So,
Yeah, that's true. Anything else from that
anything else
chapter?
to add for chapter 2?
I do not
No,
have
I don't.
anything.
I think that's a good place to stop.
Okay.
Like, this is a very small book, and I think that this is really enjoyable. So we have 3 more chapters. We did Matthew, a couple of chapters here, and James, and so we'll lead off next week with finishing off.
Alrighty.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
So we appreciate everybody doing. And we again love to hear your thoughts, especially when it comes to this, because we're all just. I'm just trying to connect with the creator, and if you guys are out there trying to connect with the creator too, and you're struggling with that, or you have maybe some struggles that you're dealing with, or some hurts, or maybe you have some positives, some wins that you want to share. Like, I enjoy being able to share your wins and also hear about your losses and trying to help and listen. So, if anybody out there needs something, just reach out, share it in the comments. We'd love to talk and interact.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Alrighty. See ya.